Welcome, everybody, to Johnny and the Greg. We're here at Johnny and the Greg. We make sure that all members can swim. You'll know what that means in a couple of seconds. So, welcome to the show. Greg, we had a fun-filled weekend. I had weekend at TheGreg's.
Yeah, it was Weekend at TheGreg's.
It was.
Sounds like a bad movie remake, but no one died. So
yeah, one died, or we didn't pretend anyone was alive that was actually dead.
Yeah. Have you rewatched that? Weekend at Bernie's is what we're referencing. Have you watched that in your adult life?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I haven't either. It's
Does
on
it hold up, you think?
I don't know. It's on one of the streaming services, and I almost feel like I want to show
We
the
should
kids.
give it a shot.
But I keep trying to remember parts of the movie, and it's so vague. I just remember like a lot of ducking and hiding, and a very limp actor with this look on his face through the whole film.
Yeah,
just kind of
walking around.
I remember as a kid watching it, going, "Did they really make a dummy of that guy?" Or no, it's not. It's obviously the real actor.
It's him. Yeah.
Did
they make a sequel to that?
They did. There's Weekend at Bernie's and Weekend at Bernie's 2.
How the hell can you pull off Weekend at Bernie's 2?
I mean,
it's a corpse. Like,
I don't know. Anyway. It's the same. It's the same. Physics as The Walking Dead, where the dead people just don't decompose ever.
Yes. Yeah. So,
let's talk.
I guess this is a good time to for Greg, for you to, because you do it better than I do, mention our sponsor.
Well, the thing about our sponsor is that they don't work right now.
Oh, no kidding?
Yeah, it's Audible. We're sponsored by Audible. And you can go to audibletrial.com/JATG, stands for Johnny and the Greg. And you can get a free month on us. But I received an email today that they are restructuring some stuff. So the link doesn't work right now, but it's going to be working soon. And when it does, people can click on that and get a free month of Audible on us, and 30 days on us. And then if you choose to continue after that, that's great. Suck down as many books as you can within your 30 days or continue it on. I've had Audible for, I'm thinking, 3 years now. And it's the main way I do my reading and learning.
How many books do you take down in pretty much a month, you think?
Well,
through Audible, not reading, just
correct.
Through Audible.
Yeah. I definitely a whole. It depends on the length. So one for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I can get in 2. But my wife is also taking down 2 or 3 a month.
Yeah.
So it's totally worth it. I mean, especially if you're an audio learner or an Audible.
Yeah. Definitely. For people like me who prefer the hardcover, and we're old school and I don't want to go to any technology and have somebody, it's awesome. I listened to the first ever Dresden File.
Yes.
Stormfront, that is read by, I'm not sure I'm gonna get the last name, but it's James Marsters.
James Marsters, who played Spike on Buffy and Angel.
Does a fantastic job, and before you know it, you're halfway through the book. It's my job. I tend to drive from store to store, so I have at least a good 10-minute drive between the store where I can pop it in, and so it's for those of you. So based on what I'm saying, for those of you that are kind of a little, they don't want to really give it a shot. Give it a shot. It's 30 days on us. And you have nothing to lose. So everything to gain.
And you mentioned it works great for people that are that believe they're time poor, like they don't have time to sit down and pick up a book. Or you know what? Everybody works hard. They're just so exhausted at the end of the day.
Yeah.
The idea of picking up a book and especially if you don't have that reading stamina anymore. Capitalize on the time that you have. Capitalize on your time in the car. Capitalize on your time when you're just staring at your computer doing your job, but it's that mindless portion of your job where you can listen to a book or a podcast or something.
That's a really good point, especially for those of you that have at least an hour to, or I should say a 35-minute 30 to 45-minute commute, that's a
Yes.
perfect time to plug in a book.
Absolutely.
So, again, guys, it's on us. Greg, can you give them when it starts working?
Yeah. It's audibletrial.com/JATG.
And with that, if you guys like what we're doing, you want us to talk about one thing or another, please let us know. There are many ways to get a hold of us. It would really super much help us out if you guys could like and subscribe so if you're going to do it on YouTube, please do it on YouTube. If you're going to do it on whatever podcasting device you listen to, please like and subscribe to us. You have no idea how much that helps us out. For those of you, just hit the like button, even if you don't like it, because if you don't, I'm going to find you. We don't have many people that follow us, and I can come find you and ask you politely, why haven't you liked our podcast?
Why don't you like me?
All right, man. So
Yeah.
this,
Let's talk
I
about some
guess,
stuff.
yeah, this whole weekend was basically weekend with the Greg.
Yeah. We were hanging out.
Yeah. So I drove up last Friday,
Mm-hmm.
and basically I just drove up Friday because we were supposed to a long time ago go to the Joe Rogan the Joe Rogan stand up.
Yep.
And it got postponed due to some sort of COVID something. I don't know what that is.
Pandemic or something.
Yeah, something like that. And it ended up finally getting scheduled, and we've made some friends along the way, and we thought named by Chef Chris, and we thought we'd jump by there, have a good meal,
Mm-hmm.
which it's a good thing, Greg, when a guy can take something as simple as a hamburger and make it like 10 times better.
Yeah.
Because that's what this guy did with my meal. Chef Chris was, again, a master at his profession. Presentation was awesome. Tastes were even out of this world. And here's something that a lot of people don't take the time, or I do. If you can't make a good Long Island iced tea, it pretty much tells me what the rest of my meal is going to be like. And this Long Island iced tea was fantastic. So hats off to the Coco mixologists.
Mm-hmm.
How did you like your meal?
Oh, I loved it. I mean, come
Yeah.
on. I mean,
Yeah.
I had a steak. I mean, and if you check out our Instagram, you can see what those looked like.
Num num.
Yep, num nums. I had a steak. I had a loaded baked potato. I think, and those were as expected. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, I had a pretty high level in those. What really kind of was the big, not shocker, but thing I really enjoyed was we got some appetizers, and we should have taken pictures of them, but we didn't.
That's because they went down our throats too fast.
They did. I got the Bam Bam shrimp.
Yeah.
And
Which was
that
fantastic.
yeah, that was phenomenal. But then he had this like Asian coleslaw that it was Bam Bam shrimp on top of this Asian coleslaw. And man, it was phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And then you ordered the crab cakes and we split those. And I mean, as far as crab cakes go, yeah, it's probably the best crab cake I had ever had.
Really?
Yeah, but that's because
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't
trying to
have
think.
a lot
I'm
of
trying to
crab
think.
cakes.
If that's the best I've ever. It's not the best. Like, it's comparable to some really fantastic ones I've had. So it's the best one I've had in the Midwest. Put it that way.
Mhm.
So
I will say the steak I had the first time I went was, I think, better
well, yeah, it was
than what I had.
Wagyu,
But
right?
yeah, but it was a Wagyu steak.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so that was to be expected.
yeah.
But
Then
yeah,
after that, we then went to your house and we watched because the Greg and I are very big fans of werewolf movies,
yes.
and we watched one which I have a hard time saying it wasn't good, but it wasn't great. It was okay. That's how I
Um
felt about it.
for
What was
what
it called? Werewolves Within or
it
something like
was
that?
Werewolf Within.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna see. I should have brought this up earlier, but or at least looked it up earlier.
Yeah. Bring up IMDb for
Well, I
what
want
we're
to
going to talk
know
about.
a little bit more of the history of the film, like because it
Oh, because
was
it's based off a video game, right?
yeah, it's based off of a video game, which is looks to be only available on PlayStation and Steam. So Ubisoft was one of the is the studio behind it, and you're like, okay. Now I expected it to have excuse me, that really independent film feel, and I think it
Hmm.
did.
Hmm.
It's not a big budget thing. I think the people that were in it were probably pretty happy with the money they made on it.
Yeah.
And it's got people you see in films or in TV shows, and they're always like a supporting role.
Right. Right.
So, um, even the two leads, Sam Richardson, who I recently saw in The Tomorrow War
Hmm.
as the
Comic
doctor.
relief guy.
Yeah, the comic relief doctor who didn't have a lot of combat experience, but still managed to make it through the entire film.
Yeah.
And then Melina, how am I saying that? Milana, Milana Vitrob, better known as the AT&T girl, but in nerd space, she is kind of a hot commodity.
Okay.
Like the nerds really love her.
She's adorable.
She
Like
is.
the way she delivers a line is adorable. She has, to me, she has something. She has the it factor. You just look at her and you just watch how she moves and how she,
Yeah.
like, and I'm not doing this as a like a sexual way. She just has this cuteness. She has this like she's adorable. She's just adorable, and
Hmm.
but she's not adorable to where, if I'm a full age man, and um, I I could see how a lot of people, especially in the nerd community or geek culture,
Yeah.
are highly attracted to her. I can see that. She's a beautiful girl. She's adorable. I thought she was the highlight of the movie. Um, but again, it didn't go where I thought it would go, but I'm
Right.
not disappointed by it.
No.
Yeah.
It's more of a who done it than it
Yes.
is a werewolf film. I mean, there's definitely a lot of mystery around it and what's going on and what is the purpose behind
Yeah.
people dying and things like that.
Craziness through the town. I like a
So
bunch of town crazies. So
yeah,
it was
with
in,
like
yeah,
everybody in their town has this weird, idiosyncrasy that you're like, okay.
yeah,
And the whole time you're like, well, they could be the werewolf. It could be
yeah,
that guy. It
yeah.
could be that guy. And then you start to really think about, or are they going to do the complete opposite and go this route?
Right.
And in the end, I mean, I see where they took it and I liked it.
Hmm.
And to your comment about Melina just being adorable, and yes, but I have a type and she fits a lot of that type.
Okay.
So yeah, I make a switch over to like, yeah, she's hot.
Okay. Oh
Pretty
no,
quick.
yeah. I'm sorry. Don't get me wrong. She's smoking hot.
She
Um,
really is.
yeah. So if you guys haven't figured out that yet, you will never look at the AT&T girl the same again.
Yep. Yep.
So, but Greg, what would you give that? C plus?
Oh no, I'd give it a B.
A
I
B?
would. Yeah.
Solid B.
I mean, I knew what I was getting into and
Yeah.
I wasn't disappointed at all. So for me, it's a solid B.
Okay. C plus to me is just average. It's average. It's not a bad movie. It's not a great movie.
Yeah.
But it's a movie. And I didn't walk away going, "Pff, that sucked." I just walked away going, okay.
I'll watch it again. I mean,
Oh, okay. I don't think I'll do that.
yeah, I
But
will. I'll watch it again.
yeah. Okay. All right, man. That was Friday, and then I fell asleep with a very comfortable granny quilt.
Yeah, my granny quilt.
Yeah. And then Saturday. Saturday was the big day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we're gonna go into the movie we saw later because what I want to talk about now is the main event, the main reason I went up there, and that was to see Joe Rogan.
Yeah, yeah,
First time I've actually seen him do stand up like live.
yeah.
I've
I've never
watched a
watched
lot
him
of
live.
his comedy specials on like TV and Netflix, and I've listened to enough Joe Rogan podcasts for so I had an eye
Right.
familiarity of what I was getting into, and there wasn't a disappointment, but there. Okay, let's break down the three acts. The first person he had was a local woman there. I didn't find her funny. That's just me. What'd you think?
Uh, yeah, I did. I found her
Okay.
funny enough. I was she. Was she on his tour, or was she just like a local comedian they picked up? Because I
I
missed her
think she's on
intro.
his tour because he
Okay.
really likes her.
Well, and on his Instagram, he was like, "Hey, this is your first stadium show. How did it feel?" And she was very pumped up.
Yeah.
You could see where she's definitely not like as polished
Right.
as
Of course.
some of the other ones. I think she was still pro, and she did better than I could do. I loved her bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. Don't. I am not a funny. I could. What they do is, it's it's a skill.
I really loved her bit about losing weight, and like her just saying, like, she lost. I think what she say, like 90 pounds or something like that.
Yeah. She
She
lost a
had
lot.
lost. Yeah, she's like, I lost 90 pounds. What I didn't know is that 87 of that was all from my tits. And I
Yeah.
just found that hilarious.
Yeah.
So I did laugh at that quite a bit.
Yeah.
Um, and the kind of like the whole stuff with her mom. Uh, I think she had her moments. I mean, in reality, she did like a 10-minute set. I mean, it
Yeah.
wasn't
Well,
very long at all.
and I may have sound harsh. Um, I didn't expect her to make me laugh. Like, because like she's
Oh,
the
really?
first act, and I understood that the first act is someone that's kind of cutting their teeth, and
Yeah,
they're
it's
just
warm
happy
up.
to be there, and
It's
they're
warm up stuff.
yeah. The next guy was Tony Hinchcliffe,
Yeah.
if I got that. I thought he was very funny. He was very offensive, but he lets you know
Yeah.
he was going to be offensive.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Um, and not only that, I just a sidebar here. If you go to a comedy club and you get offended, you didn't come with the right mindset.
Right. Th- There was a lot in his set, and there was probably a lot in Joe's set
Yeah.
that I could have been like highly offended at based on my profession and what I've spent a
Right.
career, you know, the
Yes.
people I work with. And so, but again, you've got to go in there with the mindset of like these are comedians. Comedians throughout the generations are, you know, it's not like a safe space. Like you're not going to go in
Right.
there and be
Yes.
like, if you're going to offend me, then yeah, I shouldn't have gone. But
Right.
so there was stuff there, and contextually, yes, it was funny. Some of the stuff I was just like, oh man, come on.
Yeah. You
But
felt uncomfortable because like you're like, I'm at a comedy show and
yep,
I get the joke, but this is different for me.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I get that. Joe. Joe was Joe. He didn't blow me away, but I didn't expect
Hmm.
him to blow me away. Um, he was funny the way Joe is funny.
Hmm.
He does a lot of what would you call that? Like aggressive political or aggressive human nature
Yeah,
things.
yeah. I kind of like, in his I am who I am, and if I offend you, fuck off
Yeah. Yes.
kind of comedy. Um, yeah, looking at the hot buttons in today's society
Yeah.
and making an act around that.
Right.
Now, he mentioned a couple times, and by the way, when we were in there, like cell phones were put in these little like magnetically sealed bags, like no one could get at their stuff. And
Hmm.
um they say like on the website, they're like, this is to prevent people from recording the show and like
Right.
making money off it. Yeah, that's bullshit. That's because during Joe's show, he's saying stuff that he doesn't want recorded and put out on the internet
Right.
because he had a whole bit on, how many times people have tried to cancel Joe Rogan. And I even saw it today on the news that I watch. Joe said some stuff on his podcast about the vaccination and, and
Yeah.
kind of really going against science and quoting a report that the doctor that wrote the report came out and said, no, Joe, you're misquoting me. Don't do that. Um, but he doesn't want that to go out on the internet
Right.
apparently.
Yeah.
So that's why the phones were
Right.
locked and put away. But
To
um,
his credit, though, he does say, "Look, if you're getting advice from me,
yeah,
like something's wrong with you. If you're not going to an accredited person and
correct.
getting their advice, you're the one that's at fault for that. I'm just giving you my opinion. You happen to
Hmm.
listen to it and think it's gospel or something."
And he did. I mean, politically, I think he knew who his audience was. Milwaukee is, or
Yes.
Wisconsin in general, is pretty split down the middle. Like,
Oh, you really think so?
well, yeah,
Okay.
because like in Madison and Milwaukee and even up towards like Appleton, Green Bay, they tend to be more liberal.
Right.
But then in all the like the rural part
Farming
of the states,
communities,
yeah, all of that, they're very Republican. So,
Right.
and I think he knew that he was going to get a real mix of
Mixture.
people, and so he really went after both sides. And even at one point said, you know, if you think one side is completely right and one side is completely wrong, you're fucked
Yeah.
because no side's got it right. And he
Yeah.
just really,
I agree with
so
that.
so that he went after both sides in that respect.
Right. Yeah. So overall, I had a great time at Joe Rogan's. I won't do it again. Like, I think you and I have talked about going to see Tom Segura because we both like him. We both
Yeah.
like his sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that if you were to say, hey, he's coming to Milwaukee, you want to do that again, I would definitely be up for that. But if you were to call me and say, hey, do you want to do Joe Rogan again? I'd
Yeah.
say no.
Joe Rogan's coming to Madison. Do you want to see him there? I'd be like, nah.
Yeah.
No.
I'm good. Nothing
like
against them. I'm just,
Yeah.
it's, as we're middle-aged men and we have families, we have to budget accordingly. And
Well,
that
I
was a bucket
think,
list thing on mine, and
yeah,
it's off now.
I think, and we had mentioned this on the ride home, I missed a lot of his, like he'd say a punchline or even just
Yeah,
the setup.
you're
And
right.
people were then laughing at his setup, and then I missed his punchline because people around us were laughing.
Yeah.
And we didn't have, we weren't in the front section
Right.
even. I mean, we were set back a little bit. So like you, and even you mentioned the budget thing. If this was a rescheduled show from COVID and we bought our tickets, it was a year ago last February.
Yeah.
So it's been over a year and a half that we
Right.
bought these tickets. If I had bought them 2 weeks ago and paid what we had paid for the tickets and then went and saw that show, I'd be like, okay, that was a little disappointing.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
because that money's been gone for a year and a half, I'm like, no, it was, and honestly, it was you and I, we sat down, we immediately start making conversation with the
Yeah.
people around us, except for that one dude,
In the middle,
right?
yeah.
Literally right in front of me. He had 6 seats on either side,
Yeah.
sat there for an hour before the show started. And I'm like, and then when the show started and he sat by himself that whole time, I was like, oh, did his friends ditch him?
Yeah, I thought that too. He seemed pissed. He seemed, which is funny because I never saw the guy's face. I just
Yeah.
saw side profiles and things like that, and I for some reason it's funny you said that because I was catching his body language to see if he was going to like add in conversation with us as we were
Yeah.
talking to everybody
We
around
talked to
us,
people on the left, people on the right, people
and
behind
he didn't
us.
move. He
Yeah.
was a statue. So either he was pissed off because he got basically he had to go there by himself, or he actually bought a ticket by himself.
Yeah. And
But
maybe, I mean, when the show started, he was laughing. I
oh yeah,
mean,
yeah, he
he
was into
was.
it.
So it,
Yeah.
it wasn't like he missed out on anything,
God, we're
but
so
we're,
judgy.
well, but everybody around, the guys on our left were high as hell. I mean,
Yeah.
they're
Oh,
like,
well, yeah, the guy on my left, right?
yes.
Yes, they
Yeah.
came in there with pints of ice cream.
Yeah.
And I said, "Where'd you get the pints of ice cream?" And they said that there was one vendor in that entire building that they found him in. He was like pushing it.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was really odd at a comedy show to be selling pints of ice cream. Could you eat a pint of ice cream in one sitting?
If I tried,
Well, yeah, if
like,
you tried, but I guess if we
yeah.
were high as fuck, maybe we could.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause he goes, dude, he goes, I've had like 7 gummies, man. 7 gummies.
Oh my
Like,
God.
I know Greg, 7 gummies is a lot. Like,
Yeah.
I'm in Illinois. I'm allowed to do it. So I have a gummy. I
That's,
split it in fours. I know I'm lightweight. I don't care. I don't need to be
aren't they
high
like
as I
five
don't need.
milligrams a piece? So
Yeah.
he had over 15 milligrams.
If he got, you know, government regulated ones.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So those guys were laughing
yes. Yeah.
because right when
Yeah.
they got done with their ice cream, they got up again and came back with like walking tacos.
Chick-fil-A. No,
Oh,
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A. No, but they had walking tacos too, because that's where I
Oh, did
saw. I'm
they?
like, oh shit, where'd you guys
No,
get
I had
those?
a walking taco.
Yeah, but so did they. That's
Oh.
I think that's where you probably saw it. And so where'd you get that? Because I heard you ask them. Um,
No, I asked them
and
where they got the pint of ice cream.
I thought you asked about the tacos. So they had the tacos, they had the
Yeah.
ice cream, and they came back with Chick-fil-A later. These guys were paying prime money
Yeah,
for
I
their
can't
ice cream.
imagine a chicken sandwich in Chick-fil-A inside of the stadium is cheap.
$20 Chick-fil-A
Yeah.
sandwich. Um,
By the way, beautiful stadium. Milwaukee, you did a good job.
they
Your
did,
Bucks are
yeah.
world champs. It was a
Cool.
cool stadium. Um, not a really a bad seat, I didn't think.
No, not really. And then I had never been down to like
The
they call it the
Deer
Deer
District.
District. Yeah,
Yeah.
like it's that whole it's bars, restaurants kind of surrounding Pfizer Forum, and that was cool. I
Yeah,
mean, I
very
could see
cool.
even like
Just
going
going to
down
hang out
there.
there.
Yeah, like going down when they've got a giant screen that they got sports playing on, and be like, this be kind of cool to just grab something, sit here,
Yeah,
watch whatever's on there.
right.
Um, yeah, no, I could
Yeah, it
see
was good
going back to hang out
atmosphere.
there.
Yeah. I expected everything I got at Milwaukee and I wasn't disappointed. So I'll just leave it
Hmm.
at that. Yeah. And then there's the main course. The main course. So what's funny about this, I'm gonna kind of go at this differently, but Greg and I were supposed to go to the theater. We've had our guy on this podcast a
Yep,
couple of times,
and
Matt
go to
Sampin. He
Sampin. Yep,
runs a small theater in Watertown.
yep.
Um, and he's a great host. So if you guys get a chance, go by that theater. But a funny thing happened on the way to the theater.
I don't know about
Uh,
funny, but I mean,
yeah,
like major storm. It was a major thunderstorm. We saw. I don't because you were sitting in kind of in that middle row.
yep.
I don't know if you could see them, but I counted at least 5 lightning strikes.
No, no, I didn't see it.
Oh yeah, they had to hit ground.
Uh,
And so yeah, it was raining cats and dogs and lightning strikes, and I'm like, I had the dad grip on the steering wheel. I'm
yep, you
like, yep,
did.
I gotta control this beast. Um,
Was the wind bad? I didn't feel it.
it actually wasn't that bad, but it was sheets of water across the road and stuff
Yeah,
like that. I'm
he's not
like,
lying about that, folks. It was like a white out of water. It was
yeah,
weird.
yep.
Yeah.
And so
Um.
I had both hands on the wheel, ready to do what I needed to.
Yeah.
Um, But we get into town, a giant tree had fallen over Main Street. And so we're like, okay, we get around there. And then we start to head into more the heart of downtown Watertown. I'm like, the street lights are out. There's
Yeah.
no power.
Yep.
And sure enough, we drive by the theater. It's black. Like
Yep.
it is no power in a lot of the town. Like we texted some friends that live there and they're like, no, we don't have power either. And I'm like, well, I don't think we're gonna make our 1 o'clock show.
Probably not. Well, also Matt was nice enough to text us. That's
He
what helped.
did.
That's the fun part of having a podcast and having some connections is you get
Yeah.
some nice treatment. So thank you, Matt. Thank you for
Yeah.
sending us that. Um,
So
and
Matt's
then
like
we had
powers out
to,
of the theater. Yeah,
yeah, we had to pivot.
because I mean the Joe Rogan show was that night. We couldn't be like, okay, let's go to a 3 o'clock show because we would
Right.
have missed our time to get to the other show.
Right.
Um, so we turned around, headed in to grab some lunch, and had to come back to my place where I don't want Matt to get mad at me,
I
but
know.
we watched Suicide Squad on HBO Max
And I
because
want to stop it there. Okay. We watched Suicide
okay,
Squad. Here's the issue right now that I'm hearing from everybody. It's a box office flop. It I think it got like 12. Can you pull it up? I think it got
oh
like
yeah,
12.9 million. That's it.
no, really,
Yes, it's considered a flop. I want to let every one of our listeners know, guys, this movie is fantastic.
yes,
Don't listen to the people that are calling it a box office flop. It is a box office flop, but it is a fantastic movie.
well. I won't even call it a flop yet, because a flop just means it didn't make money,
Right.
and
It's
and
well,
it didn't make its
you're right.
money on its first weekend, probably.
Right.
Um,
And
you
so
know,
I think there's a bunch of reasons for
yeah,
this happening. Number
26
one,
million it made.
yeah. How much?
26 million.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Jungle Cruise came in second at 16 million.
Fuck that. Anyway. Um so
But don't sleep on this film, guys.
please
It
don't.
is a quality film. And even if I've heard a couple people are like, they're just getting sick of the superhero genre. Like, they don't want to see another superhero film. I understand. Uh, but this one is a very, very different kind of superhero film than you've probably seen before.
Yes, it's R-rated.
Mm-hmm.
Um and I think it wouldn't, honestly, I don't think it'd be as good if it wasn't R-rated. I also think it has this bad rap from the original movie that came out
Yeah.
4 years ago, Suicide Squad with Will
Yeah.
Smith. Um, this one, this one is just hands down. I'm gonna speak just for myself. I haven't really heard Greg on this, but it's top three DC movies of all time. I don't know where this fits in all time comic book movies for me. I haven't thought that far ahead, but it is the top three of the DC Comics movies that have come out.
I don't know if it goes into my top three. I think it will
Greg's
make
thinking.
my top five.
Okay. Anyway, it's rewatchable anytime. In
Yes,
fact,
totally.
I can't wait to watch it with my wife. Um,
It's a fun movie.
oh God, it's so fun.
It is, and we talked about this before with James Gunn when he did Guardians of the Galaxy. He took a bunch of unknown characters, like
Yep.
they were known to like the Geek Squad. Like we knew who some of the
Hmm.
characters were in
Yes.
Guardians of the Galaxy, but the general public did not. And so, they're like, "Who's the tree man? Why is there a talking raccoon?" I mean, from the
Right.
trailers, they're like, "Is this going to be worth it?" And then they watched it and they loved it.
Yeah.
And I think he did the same thing with the Suicide Squad, where he took a group of characters and nobody really knows who they are
Correct.
outside of the
Harley.
geekverse. Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
and people know Harley Quinn, but honestly, I think people are getting fed up just with the character in general, not necessarily Margot Robbie's, but
Cool. Let's stop there
well, hold on.
because.
No, I
Oh,
don't want to
I'm
stop
sorry.
there.
Go ahead.
And he took this group of unknown characters that most people hadn't heard of and made a great film out of it.
Yeah.
So now, what do you think about Harley?
In this movie alone, this is the Harley I always wanted to see.
Correct. Yeah.
So it just shows me it's not Margot's problem. It's the direction and the script
Yeah.
that we've been dealing with when it comes to Harley Quinn. I thought this was the best Harley Quinn I've seen. In fact, if they keep doing her like that, I'm on board.
Yeah. I think Margot Robbie wants to be done with her though.
It wouldn't
Go
surprise me.
going into the movie, she's like, this could be my last one.
Mhm.
Like she wants to walk away from Harley for a while. And I went, well, given your run on the character, I see why. You've made
Yes.
one. I mean, and she's trying. I mean, she's doing exactly what the director tells her to do.
Mhm.
Birds of Prey was a terrible movie.
Disaster.
Um, and I think with this, she's like, well, if this doesn't do well, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah.
But the fan love that she's been getting from it, I've read two headlines today. One said she's walking away, like still
Okay.
doesn't, and the other one was like, well, maybe not. We'll have to see what happens.
It's interesting because I remember Chris Hemsworth not wanting to do another Thor solo movie
Right.
until Taiko sat him down and said, "This is my idea for Ragnarok." And
Yeah.
he had it was such a good ride, and Taiko did a great job with Thor that Taika did a great job with Thor that like Hemsworth's on board for doing as
Yeah.
many Thors as he wants with Taika. So, but anyway, transitioning back to Suicide Squad.
Well, again, it starts off. You look at the roster of, was it 12?
14.
14 heroes, and you're like, how are they going to get through that many histories?
Don't
You
spoil a
know
lot of
that
it.
I'm not,
Yeah.
but um,
They do it.
but it's the Suicide Squad, and James Gunn is a hell of a director, and he writes a story that he can wrap all these characters around, give you a satisfying storyline for all of them,
Yeah.
and even by mid film, you're still hanging on, like
Yeah.
you're. He does a little bit of like time jumps back and forth as he's telling a story, because the group, when you have that many characters, the group does split
Yes.
a couple times, and then there's even splits on the splits. So it's like meanwhile, this is what this group is doing, and you're
Yeah.
like, okay,
Yeah.
um, yeah, just
Yeah. If I'm being honest, I think I was highly impressed from
hmm
James Gunn with what he did, how he took something that look, I'm going to be honest, it left a bad taste in everybody's mouth, the
uh-huh,
first movie, and I think they tried to do some sort of weird little follow-up with Harley Quinn with the Birds of Prey, and that failed miserably too. So there
right,
was this really bad taste I had, and you and I kept hearing before we saw this movie, best DC movie ever.
yep,
And we thought, ever, it's better than The Dark Knight? Really? It's better
right.
than Wonder Woman? Um, I won't say it's better than those films, but it definitely holds its own against those films.
Well, and I had a conversation with some friends last night while I was doing some online gaming, and we were talking about it. And because they heard the same thing. They're like, best DC film ever?
Yeah,
Really, Greg? You're going to say that? I'm like, no, I'm not. But at the same time, you don't put Avengers in the same category you put Deadpool. Like,
you're right. Yeah.
you enjoy them both,
Yes.
but if you had to pick between Avengers or Deadpool, you're like, that's apples and oranges. Like, they
Right.
don't really. And that's where I'm going to put the Suicide Squad, James Gunn Suicide Squad, because if you're going to say, I mean, if even if you say like Nolan's Dark Knight, the Snyderverse with Man of Steel, Wonder Woman,
Hmm.
Justice League, and the Suicide Squad, I think it's still apples and oranges and whatever other fruit
That's a
you
good
want to
point.
throw in there.
That's a strong
They're
point.
they're just different. I mean, the Nolan verse is its own thing.
Yeah.
The Snyderverse is its own thing, and whatever Gunn is building, I think is gonna weave into the Snyderverse. Like that's kind
Somehow.
of where they want it to go. But to judge the movies against each other, you just can't. One is a very hard R, made for the Deadpool type fans,
Yes.
and like they're doing stuff in Suicide Squad that they're never going to do in a Batman, Superman, or Wonder
Correct.
Woman film.
Correct. I agree with you on that. So yeah, that's a very good point. So um I want to go back a little bit to this discussion we have kept having, and it looks like it's flat out it's becoming it more goes towards the stance that you and Matt were on, is that this streaming thing is killing box office. It's
Mm-hmm.
killing it. And I'm afraid that producers or the people that put the budget together are looking at these numbers and thinking it wasn't a success.
Mm-hmm.
Where like this kind of worries me about Suicide Squad, because 26 million, like that should happen on a Friday night or Thursday midnight showing, or I'm sorry,
Right.
Friday midnight showing. That type of number should come out during that.
Mm-hmm.
I think this thing, a lot of people, including you and me, we're even saying, well, I'm not going to see this. I'm not going to.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
we're diehards. We're diehard comic book fans. We love this. We love geekhood. We love the geek world. So the casual fan, like my wife and the other people out there, guys, give this a chance. It's a fun ride, and you're not going to regret it. I feel.
Yeah. I think and I'm totally speculating, because what else am I going to do? Um, so next week, I'm looking at next weekend's release.
Okay. What do we
We've
got?
got we've got Free Guy, with Ryan
Okay.
Reynolds. So I
That
think
might do well.
that'll do well. Don't Breathe 2, a horror film.
Eh,
Exactly. You've got Coda, which looks interesting, but I don't know if that's a theater watch for me.
what's Coda?
Coda is the story about a family where the parents and maybe another sibling are all deaf, like they have
Oh,
hearing
okay.
loss. And the one family member is like a teenage girl who does not have hearing loss, and she's an amazing singer. So it's her, it's the family working with a daughter who
Right.
has this amazing gift that they can't enjoy because they can't hear.
Right.
And so it's going to be like a drama.
Yeah.
Um,
Tearjerker drama.
yeah, yep. Like I said, looks good. I mean, I'll watch it when it,
Yeah.
well, but I'm not going to see it in the theater.
Right.
Um, Respect, which is the Aretha Franklin story, which
Eh,
I want to see, but God, do I hate Jennifer Hudson. So
okay.
I really want to see it because I really like Aretha Franklin, but
Yeah.
Jennifer Hudson is just too much of a diva for me, and I don't want to watch it.
Yeah.
The East, don't know what that is. Raging Fire, don't know what that is, and Emma, which was
Okay.
made
So its only real
2000.
competition is Free Guy.
I think so. Yep. And
Okay.
yeah, I would say that that's going to
Okay.
be
Now we're just talking box office.
right.
This has nothing to do with the HBO views
Hmm.
or anything like that. But I think
So,
again, it's a strong point towards your guys' argument that
but my point here is going to be that, I mean, yes, the Suicide Squad probably didn't have as strong opening weekend as they would have liked.
right,
But um,
you're saying it can catch up.
I think there's going to be an audience there that's going to come across this movie later on. I mean,
Not only
it used to be like perfect example would be Austin Powers.
right,
Um, Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery, the first Austin Powers film, tanked at the
right,
box office, just
right,
absolutely tanked. And they're like, critics panned it. It didn't have a good opening weekend,
right.
and then it hit video and it
Blew up.
up.
Same
Like
thing for the Born Identity.
Born Identity. Yep, same
Yep.
thing. I mean, so I think Suicide Squad could have that kind of life where people aren't going to be interested in going to the theater to see it, especially when, some
The
theaters.
Delta variant now.
Yeah, there's stuff going on in the world that make people maybe not want to go to a theater again.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but it's gonna. I think if it finds an audience that James Gunn, whether it's a series on HBO Max or something, I just don't feel like he's done with that world.
No, I don't think so either. But I think what's going to help it, I think you're right. I think what's going to help it is us, people like us, word of
Yeah.
mouth, people that
Hmm.
have seen it and they're like, dude, look, go see it. Like I immediately text my sister Kim, who is part of this geek world that we all love,
Hmm.
and she goes, I haven't seen it yet. She goes, I wasn't really sure about it. I said, Kim, watch it
Yep.
as soon as you can. This is fantastic.
Hmm.
Um,
And even looking at the weekends ahead, I mean, traditionally we're getting into that part of summer where there's not a lot coming out
yeah, they're dropping
for a
off the
while.
last
Yeah.
ones. Yeah,
I mean, even the following weekend is Reminiscence. That's that Hugh
yeah,
Jackman
Hugh
kind of
Jackman.
time drive, which looks cool, but that's not an all audiences kind of thing. That's
That
for
actually looks
sci-fi.
like a hit or a miss.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
And
that's an
so
HBO Max for sure.
I think the people that are looking at it are like science fiction fans going, I'll give that a shot.
Yeah,
But like my parents, nah, they're
yeah,
not,
that's a good
they're
point.
not interested in that.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
like after that, it's Candyman, which if you're not a horror fan, you're not doing that.
yeah,
So they've got pretty much now. I mean, Free Guy will offer some competition because it's Ryan Reynolds.
right.
Whether it's good or bad, it's still Ryan Reynolds.
Yes.
But they don't have real competition until September 3rd when
Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi comes out. Yeah.
Yeah, so it could be the month for Suicide Squad. For those of you that are still hanging on to our conversation, when I opened up with all members know, like we know who can swim and who can't. That's a big part, or not a big part. It's a part in the movie that
Yeah.
Greg and I were just cracking up about.
It was. I absolutely lost it.
Yeah,
And I knew it right away.
yeah,
Like when it happens, you're like, oh, someone didn't do their homework.
yeah, yeah. So but that kind of zaniness, that type of craziness, It's all James Gunn, and it's beautiful. It's the way he tells the story. You're not sitting there confused. And what's really impressive is he took a bunch of characters that nobody knows, and he
Right.
gave them enough of a moment
Right.
for you
Yep.
to know them a little bit.
And
Which,
people
wow,
can look this up. I mean, there's a character in the film called Polka Dot Man.
yes,
James Gunn literally went online and typed in lamest DC character and came up with Polka Dot Man.
yes,
He makes Polka Dot Man like a sympathetic character. You
yep.
care about where he's going. He ends up being kind of a kick-ass person to have on your team.
You actually really like him.
You do.
Yeah.
You do. And he's, I mean, that's the
He's
magic of
messed
James
up,
Gunn.
but you like him.
Yeah. That is certainly the magic of James Gunn of taking something that you're like,
Correct.
what the hell? And he's going back to some of his horror roots with, I mean, if you saw Slither, I mean,
Yeah, he is. You're
kind
right.
of that dark comedy kind of thing.
Yes.
And he's just so damn good at it. And
Yeah, he
I
really
mean,
is.
really, I'm
He's
kind of
really
want to
good at
watch it.
finding the absurdity of the moment. Like
Hmm.
there is one of my favorite parts, and this isn't a spoiler because it's actually in the trailer, but it's one of my favorite parts. And it's so small and it's so insignificant, but I just loved it. Is when Harley's in the cab, and all of a sudden she looks ahead
Yeah.
and she sees like guys sneaking, and
Yeah.
they're sneaking they look so stupid the way they're moving down and it's just the absurdity of it
Yeah.
is fantastic. I had a blast. I can't wait to watch this with Ursula. In fact, we're probably going to shorten our podcast so I can do that.
I will say, performance wise, I was super impressed that with actually with John Cena. Um,
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. We haven't
a-
even talked about him. Yes.
and as the Peacemaker, and what I liked about him is, I mean, every film I've seen John Cena in so far,
He gets better.
well, he gets better, yes, but they're also trying to make him play against his type. So, like when he's doing the comedies and when he's doing like, he's he's the super sensitive dad who has no problem wearing the Crocs and the pink
Yeah.
polo shirts, and
Yes.
they're going against the type that they want him to be, which he's this massive bodybuilder type guy.
Yes.
And James Gunn said, no, screw that, we're going to embrace the hell out of that. And he is, and this is a line that again is in the trailer. He's like, I believe in truth, justice, and freedom, and I don't care how many bodies I need to stack to get it. I mean, and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And he plays it so straight. And
Yes.
and then at a point in the film where it's no longer a comedy piece, it's like, oh shit, this is what this guy really thinks.
Right.
And it becomes kind of at the major crux of the film.
Yeah.
You're still just totally locked in
Yeah.
to his character and like what does it take I mean, he
Yeah.
totally believes in what he does.
Yeah. And that's what I'm talking about is that he gives characters depth that you're like look, sometimes I think of myself as a writer, sometimes. And I get blown away when I can see a script like this where they made King Shark lovable. They gave him depth.
Mm-hmm.
How do you
Yeah.
make a man like a shark man hybrid? How do you give it depth? You know?
Not just that, a monosyllabic. I mean, he doesn't talk complete sentences.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And it's the same thing of how did he make I am Groot so lovable? And
Yeah.
even though it's the same words, you're like, no, you're getting meaning and emotion behind each. He not it's same thing with King Shark.
Yeah.
Same thing.
I might be prisoner of the moment here, but King Shark or Groot, Greg?
Oh, I think I'd probably still go Groot
Yeah. I think I'd
for me.
I think I'd go King Shark.
And I can see why. I
Yeah.
mean,
Again, I might be prisoner of the moment. Ask me this in 3 years. I don't know.
yeah,
But yeah, I was impressed by all of that. Yeah, I mean, he took Rat Catcher, and I love how they call her Rat Catcher 2.
yeah,
You know, they
yeah,
call her Rat Catcher 2. They took a character that, I mean, we've discussed this before. They took a character like Harley, and they made her, they did well with her. They did well
Mm-hmm.
with the Idris Elba's character, who's my favorite character in this movie, is Bloodsport. But what was interesting is I watched it with your family, and
Mm-hmm.
we were all rooting and getting scared because one thing in this movie is you don't know who's going to bite it and who's not. It's not predictable.
Yeah, no, not at all.
And that's the genesis of the Suicide Squad. That's what it
Yeah,
is. It's always a revolving cast of misfits and criminals, and they're expendable. And
yeah,
James Gunn expends some. Like
yeah.
he
Well,
gets rid of some.
and the oh man, the performance that Viola Davis gives
Oh
as
yeah.
Amanda Waller
Yes.
is chilling. I mean,
Yeah.
so heartless, and
Yes.
she just nails it.
Yeah, she really does. I watched a little bit of today on YouTube, just Amanda Waller parts of the first Suicide Squad. She
Hmm.
blows her character away in this one. Like
Absolutely, yeah.
there's a total difference. It's
She doubles down
even
on
even
that character.
even Rick Flag. His
Yeah.
performance in this is way better.
Well, and again, the first movie being so bad, and you're
Yeah.
like, I don't care about any of these
I
characters.
know.
Like,
Like,
really, at the end of the movie, you're
come
like,
on, Will, I'm waiting to care. Come on.
yeah, you're like, any one of you can die. I don't care. I
Yeah.
mean, you're just waiting for it. You're like,
Right.
they're not going to kill Harley, but maybe if they kill Diablo or
Yeah.
I mean, even Will's character would have been more meaningful if he would have died, but they're not going to kill him.
No,
Um,
I bet people are clamoring for him in Bloodsport in part 3.
oh, that would be interesting.
That would be
Um,
interesting. But go ahead.
but so characters that you watched a whole movie not caring whether they lived or died,
Yes.
and then you see them show up in this movie, and you're like, oh, God, do we get this guy again?
Yeah.
James Gunn makes you care about him.
Yeah.
He's like, nope.
Yeah.
So he literally makes you turn a 180 on some of these characters.
Yeah. Which that's what I'm saying. It's incredible. It's if if you take the time to think about what this guy did with this movie, coming off of a
Yep.
disaster the first time, and it's a 180, and you're like, wow. Because Greg, you and I, we did not, and it's this isn't a this is so different because this isn't a we had zero expectations going in. At first, we didn't care. Then we started hearing, you might want to check this out. This is like really, really
Right.
good. This is the best DC movie ever. Again, I'm not saying it is, but I'm not saying it isn't. Um,
I went in on trust, really. I mean,
yeah,
and it was when Matt was like, dude, you're gonna you're gonna want to see it.
yeah.
Like,
He said it on our podcast. He
yeah, he
talked us
did.
into it on the podcast.
It was literally, go back 3 episodes or whatever it
Yeah,
was, and you could hear me go, damn it, yeah, okay,
yeah, right.
I'll see it. I
Yeah,
mean, I was gonna skip it and just, you know, gonna wait for it to like the buzz to pass. It wasn't gonna be an opening weekend watch for me or anything like that.
yeah,
Um, I'm glad I went in
yeah,
and just blindly trusted, Matt and others to be like, okay, fine, yep, I'll
yeah.
watch it.
Absolutely. So I think we've done enough for Suicide Squad.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
hope we have. So that's pretty much oh, the one thing I wanted to talk about that I was blown away also on this weekend is your son said to me, I didn't even know this happened. He said to me, have you seen Benedict Cumberbatch's performance for Smaug the Dragon
Oh, yeah.
in The Hobbit,
The
for the
Hobbit, yeah,
second Hobbit movie?
trilogy.
And I said, I didn't even know he was the dragon in this.
Yeah.
I'm like, I thought to myself, my first thought, honest to God, Greg, was I don't want to see this guy on a microphone like going, who is this?
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I don't need to see that. And without me knowing it, since you guys have all your phones hooked up to your TV, he just boom, it's on. And I was in awe and I was glued. Like Greg, I mean, you could probably say this
Yeah.
how I was reacting to this better than I can. So go ahead.
Well, your mind was blown. I mean,
I
one,
was
you didn't know that Benedict Cumberbatch I've always got to.
Yes, I know. We got to slow down with that.
Yeah. Benedict Cumberbatch.
Right.
You didn't know that he did the motion capture,
Nope.
or that there was any motion capture for the
Correct.
dragon that's fully CGI'd.
Correct.
But when you watch it, and you could, I mean, if we could have did a side by side of what was on film versus his performance,
Yes.
you can see where they took him down on his hands and knees and like writhing around on a gym mat.
Slithering on the floor.
You can see where they took his performance and injected that into a,
Yeah.
3-story tall CGI dragon.
Yes. And like, look, people listening to me, YouTube it. Once you get past the 10 seconds of silliness,
Yeah.
and just look at the performance and what he's doing, knowing he's not going to be seen. That's what I want to people to get. Like, he's not seen. It's a dragon you're watching.
And when that movie came out, which I think we're coming up on 10 years.
Yeah.
He wasn't a name in America. Like, people in Britain knew who he was through like Sherlock Holmes and some other things. But like most Americans, unless you were really paying attention to film, they didn't know who he was. And they didn't care. Yes. And then you're like, oh, the dragon was voiced by Benedict Cumberbatch. And they're like, great, who the hell is that?
Exactly. Exactly. He is slowly fastly, I should say fast. He's fastly becoming one of my favorite actors. I'm going to, on Hulu, I think it's on Hulu, wherever it is, I'm going to watch Sherlock. I've never watched one of those episodes.
It's great. It is fantastic.
Yeah. I'm going to watch that. That's on my list.
I think he's going to be like this ages like John Malkovich, where he can just morph into any role and he'll be that guy.
I agree.
Yeah. Yep.
I agree.
It's great.
So yeah, it is great. So I think, hey man, let's end it there.
Sure.
Yeah. Greg, any last words?
Yeah. Kind of the same thing we're always going through. 3 rules to live by. Would be number 1, verify your sources, because you don't want to be talking out the side of your head. 2, know your audience. Know who you're talking to. Certain ways you can speak to certain people. And 3, as you're doing those, don't be a douche.
Boom. That's it. So everybody, thank you very much for listening. Give Audible a shot on us. For Johnny and the Greg. Podcast out. Take care.
See you guys.